My mom always said my husband reminded her of my dad. She'd say it with this soft smile, half proud, half distant, like she was seeing ghosts only she could recognize. He has that same charm, she'd say. That same way of making a room feel warm when he walks in. I used to love hearing it. I grew up thinking my dad was the blueprint, the standard, the example of what a good man looked like. He died when I was 13, and all I ever had were stories. Stories about how he made her coffee every morning, how he danced with her in the kitchen, how he made her laugh even when she wanted to stay mad. So when I met Daniel, funny, charismatic, adored by everyone, and my mom said he reminded her of my father, I thought I'd won. We dated for 3 years before getting married. The kind of relationship people envy from the outside. He remembered birthdays, bought flowers without reason, cooked better than I did. When he made a mistake, he apologized with his chest deep eye contact, hand on my cheek, the whole script. To the world, he was golden, and for a while, to me too, even when the little cracks started to show. Like when he'd make jokes about my weight in front of friends, or when he'd forget to tell me about weekend plans, then act confused when I got upset. You're too sensitive, babe. I'm just messing with you. Like when I got promoted and he said, wow, I didn't think they'd actually pick you, with a laugh. Like it was a compliment wrapped in disbelief. Every time I brought it up, he spun it. You're reading into things. You know I love you more than anything. Don't make me the bad guy just because you're insecure. And every time, I believed him, because that's what love looks like, right? Not perfect, just willing to try again. Then one day, we were at my mom's house, just the 3 of us. I was helping her unpack some old boxes from the attic. She was downsizing, finally moving out of the house I grew up in. I pulled out a box labeled wedding stuff and smiled. Is this from your and Dad's wedding? I asked. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Some of it, yeah. We opened it together. Inside were photos, dried flowers, a silk tie, and at the bottom a small leather notebook. I opened it without thinking, and on the very first page, written in my mother's careful, slanted handwriting, were the words, if anything happens to me, show this to the police. I froze. My mom had always talked about my dad like he was her great love. So why did she leave behind something like that? And what did it have to do with the men I married? I stared at the words like they might rearrange themselves into something less terrifying. If anything happens to me, show this to the police. My mom didn't say anything, just sat there, hands folded, lips tight. I flipped the page. Inside were entries, not daily journal-style ramblings, but records, dates, incidents, names of people, hospital visits, excuses made, what she told others and what really happened. It wasn't just about my dad. It was about who he really was. The first entry was dated 6 months before their wedding. He lost his temper tonight. First time he's ever scared me. He cried after, said it wouldn't happen again. I believe him. The second came 3 weeks later. Bruise on my arm. Told coworkers I hit a door frame. He bought me flowers. I smiled like everything was fine. The entries continued like that. Love notes written through gritted teeth. A woman trying to survive a life she had convinced herself she chose. And I never knew, because she never told me. When I looked up at her, my mom was watching me, quiet, still. I thought he was perfect, I whispered. You always said he was perfect. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. No, honey, I said he made people feel like he was perfect. That's not the same thing. I felt the floor tilt. But why didn't you leave? Why didn't you? She cut me off gently. I stayed for the same reason you're still with Daniel. I blinked. I never told you didn't have to, she said. I see the way he looks at you when you speak too long. How he corrects you in front of other people. I see how small you've become. And that's when I realized something terrifying. I hadn't been shrinking on my own. He'd been trimming me, piece by piece, word by word. I took the notebook home that night. Daniel was already in bed when I got there. He rolled over half asleep and mumbled, "You're late, again." No hi. No, how was your mom? Just control. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt awake. I lay beside him in the dark, staring at the ceiling, one hand over the place where my mother's notebook now rested in my bag. And one question echoed in my head, over and over. What else have I mistaken for love? If my father wasn't who I thought he was, and my husband mirrored him in ways I never saw, what was I really married to? The next morning, I couldn't unsee it. The way Daniel sighed when I asked if he wanted coffee. How he rolled his eyes when I double-checked our calendar. Do you need to go over everything twice? You act like I'm a child. He said it with a smile, but the kind that hides teeth. The kind I'd once seen as playful. Now, it just felt calculated. I started keeping notes, just like my mom did. Not because I planned to use them, but because I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't imagining it. Monday, called me too intense for crying at a news story. Wednesday, interrupted me mid-sentence 3 times at dinner with friends. Friday, suggested I wear something less attention-grabbing to a coworker's party. Sunday, told me, "You know you'd be nothing without me, right?" Then laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't. I wasn't imagining anything. I was documenting a pattern. And still, part of me hesitated. He'd never hit me, never screamed, never cheated that I knew of. But the bruises weren't on my skin. They were on my identity. Every time I dimmed myself, filtered my words, second-guessed my own reactions, it was another cut. Invisible, but real. A week later, my mom called me. "I've been thinking," she said, "about how it ends. What do you mean? I asked. With men like that, it doesn't end all at once. It ends in pieces. In lost friendships. In things you used to love. In silence. I knew she was right, because I had already started vanishing. I hadn't painted in over a year. Daniel said it took too much time. I hadn't seen my best friend in 6 months. He thought she was too negative. I hadn't said no to anything he asked. In forever. That night, I waited until he was asleep. I pulled out the notebook again. The last page had a list. A short one. Signs I missed until it was too late. Apologies that felt like lectures, being called crazy in private but beautiful in public, feeling exhausted after every conversation, starting to forget who I was before him. At the bottom, she had written, "If my daughter ever falls into this, please let her find the door before I did." I had the door, but was I strong enough to walk through it? While he still thought he owned the key. Once you decide to leave someone like him, you can't just leave. You have to prepare. Because men like Daniel don't rage. They erode. And when you finally pull away, they act like you're the unstable one, like they need protection from you. So I played along. For 2 weeks I smiled, laughed at his jokes, apologized when he sighed, let him believe everything was fine. While behind the scenes, I was building my escape. I opened a new bank account, transferred money in small, unnoticeable chunks, called an old friend and asked if I could crash with her. She didn't even ask why. Just said, "The guest room's yours. Come when you're ready." I gathered documents, birth certificate, passport, insurance info, and hid them in my gym bag. Then I sent my mom a message with a single emoji, a door. She replied immediately, "Open it." The night I left, he was watching TV. I walked in holding my bag. He looked up, half interested. "Where are you going?" "I'm leaving." He blinked, like the words didn't register. "Leaving to go where?" "To be myself again." He laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. I just walked toward the door. That's when his voice dropped. "Wait, you're actually doing this?" I turned around. "You told me once I'd be nothing without you. But the truth is, I was already nothing the moment I believed you. And I left. No screaming, no tears. Just footsteps on hardwood floors and the click of a door unlocking. I waited for the backlash. The guilt texts, the love bombs, the fake apologies, the threats. And they came, one by one. "I was just trying to help you grow. You're so ungrateful after everything I did for you. Nobody else is going to put up with you like I did." I didn't reply, not because I had nothing to say, but because I'd already said enough for years. Now, silence was my loudest answer. I was free, but freedom comes with grief too, not just for who I lost, but for the version of me I let disappear to keep him happy. It took weeks before I stopped looking over my shoulder, not because I thought he'd chase me, he was too proud for that, but because I kept expecting guilt to knock on my door, to whisper, "Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe love is supposed to hurt a little." But then I'd hear my mother's voice, and I'd remember the notebook, and how close I came to repeating a life that almost broke her. Healing isn't poetic. It's slow. It's ugly. It's eating toast for dinner because your stomach can't handle anything heavier. It's crying in the shower, not because you miss him, but because you miss who you were before him. It's standing in front of a mirror and realizing you don't recognize your own softness because you had to armor up just to survive. But little by little, softness returns. I started painting again. Badly. But it felt good. I visited my best friend. We stayed up all night laughing like teenagers. She said, "There you are." And I realized, yeah, I was still in here. I got a job offer in another city. A clean start. My mom helped me pack. We didn't talk about him. We didn't need to. But before I left, she handed me something. A small red notebook. "Empty. For your story," she said. "Write it down while it's still fresh." I smiled. Not because I planned to write another record of pain, but because I finally had the pen in my own hand. Sometimes I think about what might have happened if I hadn't found her notebook. If she hadn't been brave enough to document her silence. Would I have stayed? Would I have become her? 20 years earlier? I don't know. But I do know this. I'm not the daughter of a weak woman. I'm the daughter of a survivor. And now, so am I. He said I reminded him of my mother. I used to think that was a compliment. Now I know it was a warning. Because women like us don't stay small forever.